Hello everybody, welcome to module 1 of the breathing and movement module. So we're gonna be talking about a couple of important factors just in general about breathing. We're gonna go a bit into some tests, into some biochemistry, and also a bit of psychological effects that breathing can have. And on the second part, we're gonna go a bit more into the actual movement and breathing component of the whole thing. So let's get started. Okay, so breathing is of course a very important process for our survival, and it has a lot of complexities and a lot of topics around it, right? So let's start with a couple of important factors of breathing, right? So the first thing that I want to talk about is the breathing mechanics, the actual muscles that are involved in the whole process. So the main primary muscle is the diaphragma. The diaphragma is a muscle that sits up on top of your breathing capsule, so right below your ribs, and it's a bit of a sheet-like muscle that when you inhale, it goes down and it creates a vacuum, and this vacuum pulls, as the lungs get pulled down, it fills them with air. And then when you relax, the exhalation just happens for itself. So it's actually a very elegant system that only requires strength to bring the air in, but can actually take the whole air out. So we have the primary muscle is the diaphragma, but then also the intercostal muscles and the neck muscles can also add and help increase the capacity of the lungs. So these are the biomechanical parts of the breathing. Another important aspect of breathing is nose breathing. Nose breathing is actually a very important element of correct breathing because the nose is made to filter the air, to increase the temperature of the air, to decrease the speed of the air. We also create NO, nitric oxide gas, which also dilates the breathing tracts. So all these elements together are being used on the breath when you breathe through the nose. If you don't breathe through the nose and breathe through the mouth, you're skipping all these important processes that are also very crucial for the exchange of oxygen and CO2 that happens then at the level of the lungs. So an important factor to take into account. Another important aspect to take into account is the speed at which we breathe, or the number of breaths that we take per minute. If we are breathing too fast, we're not necessarily making us a favor. So this increase in frequency of breathing is going to mess the balance between oxygen and CO2. And CO2 is not just a waste gas, it's a very important gas that helps the system moderate a number of processes. So also an important factor to take into account. So during this course, we're going to be using the method Oxygen Advantage. It's a method based on the Buteco philosophy, and it's all about answering the question, how should I breathe every day? What is correct breathing? What is efficient breathing? It takes into account, of course, all these elements: nose breathing, the frequency of breaths, and the concept of CO2 tolerance, and it just works upon that. So most of us have lost or have not, because of stress and sedentary positions or whatnot, we have lost maybe our normal breathing mechanics and breathing frequency, and this can lead to disbalance between the CO2 that our body can tolerate and a CO2 that is optimal for the oxygen intake into the cells. So this is a key concept that we will be working on, and it's basically also the framework for the training. So we're talking about breath holds that lead to higher CO2 tolerance, that lead to a better irrigation and oxygenation of the tissues, which is the connection to the whole movement aspect. And finally, to wrap up this session, we are going to be talking about the natural ground movements and breathing. Okay, so breath is a connection between your mind and your body. And when we are doing patterns, flows, ground movements in general, the breath is going to indicate us, for example, intensity. If we can remain breathing through the nose calmly, then we are at an adequate intensity. If we need to huff and puff, it means also that the intensity is increasing. It can also help us synchronize the movement. It can also help us connect us with our body to be able to perform the movements better. It can also help us focus our attention in a place, using the breath as a tool to focus your thoughts. and it can also help as an intensity tool. So if you're working, for example, with breath holds and movement, you're going to be able to simulate a higher intensity even though you're still working on ground movements in basic intensity. Okay, so in conclusion, understanding how breathing can affect our physical and mental state and also how it can connect us to our body is going to be the main focus of this module, and also this understanding will help you also progress through the different levels, right? So in the level 1 we have different type of techniques and different type of exercises, and then we'll be dwelling deeper into the whole aspect as you go through the program.